Welcome to Sitcom Showdown, a podcast that reviews classic sitcom episodes and inducts them into our very own Hall of Fame. As usual, one of us has chosen a sitcom episode and the other guy has no idea what it's going to be. Will they already know it? Will they love it? Can they be convinced that it's worthy? Let's find out on the Sitcom Showdown.
Welcome back, listeners. It's Steve here and Jeff.
Hello.
Say hello.
Hi.
Hello. We're trying something different
This month,
the
month of August 2019.
Yes. So let's see how this goes. We're basically nominating an actor or actress to be entered into the Hall of Fame.
Righto. Not in the same episode, I should add, in separate episodes.
Separate episodes. So I'm doing one this time and Jeff will be nominating someone next time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to run through some interesting background to the person, their history and that sort of stuff. And then we'll be looking at one particular episode of a sitcom done by them.
Mm-hmm.
And also the most famous sitcom that they've done. Anyway, let's see how it goes. I did realise this morning, though, that you may not even know the person that I've chosen. So let's see.
You haven't chosen an absolute easy slam dunker of an actor.
Well, let's see. Have you heard of a bloke called Judd Hirsch?
Yes, I've definitely heard of Judd Hirsch.
Few.
Yes, I know him. Wasn't he in Taxi?
Yes.
And many movies?
Yes.
And all that sort of stuff.
Actually, more TV than movies, but we'll get into that shortly. Yes, so I've chosen Judd. And yeah, I started watching. I'd seen him, I guess, in different roles over time, but I started seriously getting into Taxi recently, and then I've explored a few other things that he's been in. Oh. So I'm interested in him.
Is he still with us?
He is. So he was born on at 7:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, March 15th, 1935. So he is still with us, and he's 84 years old.
Holy moly. He's doing all right.
He's doing well. He was born in the Bronx in New York to Jewish parents. His mum, Sally, was born in Russia, and his dad, Joseph, was born in New York. So presume her family emigrated at some point, and his parents met up in the US. So Judd grew up in Brooklyn and then the Bronx, and he graduated from DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx in 1952. Now, at the time, Jeff, this was an all-boys school.
Okay.
Would you like to hear some of the famous alumni from DeWitt Clinton High School?
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yes.
Bob Kane, co-creator of...
I don't know.
No, Batman.
Oh, really?
Yep. Don Adams.
Yes, I know him. He's from Get Smart.
From Get Smart. Burt Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
Movie
famous
actor. Don Lane. Now...
Our Don Lane.
Our Don Lane. Yes, so he became famous in Australia.
Yeah, our British and or American listeners might need a bit of filling in on this.
He was an all-round entertainer, and he was once the highest paid person on Australian television.
Oh. So much in the mould of Jim Owen, who's a famous Irish comedian who came to Australia and had numerous TV shows. A cynic could say, we've got the refuse who weren't talented enough to make it in their own countries, come over here, and because they're an over-the-top American or a charming, talented Irishman, have great success on Australian TV, but couldn't cut it in their home nations. Or
you can say that if you want.
They came here and just loved the Australian lifestyle and sacrificed living in their home nations to come down here and ply their trade down under. There you go. Was that fence sitting enough for you?
Yeah, I'm not buying into.
Okay. Anyway, Judd Hirsch has got nothing to do with any of this. But Donnie Lane was well loved and probably won 1 million Logies.
Yes, he was. So moving on from high school, he went to the City College of New York, where he earned a degree in physics. Then after graduating from college, he did a tour in the US Army. And then he worked as an engineer for Westinghouse before he found work in the theatre.
Oh.
So we'll talk about his acting career a bit. So he obviously did a bit of this and a bit of that before.
Yeah. Did it mention
acting got underway?
With the military, because that would that not have been slap bang in between Korea and Vietnam? And he just got lucky, so to speak?
So he graduated from high school in 52 and then went to college. And then he went, after graduating college, he went into the army. So
Yeah, so if Korea was over as he was coming out of
I
college,
don't know.
and he did a 4-year stint, then he might have missed out on Vietnam as well. Who knows? We can look into that later.
Yes. So in terms of the before we get to the acting, he was married. He's been married twice. The first time he was married to his wife Eliza from 63 to 67. They had a son, Alex, who was born in 66, and then he remarried in 92 to Bonnie, a fashion designer, and then they divorced in 2005. And he's got 2 children to his second wife.
Oh.
Then we can talk about his acting. So he studied acting at HB Studio in New York City.
Right.
Nothing to do with pencils. It was founded in 1945 by the Viennese actor-director Herbert Berghoff,
Right.
hence the HB. This says that HB Studio is one of the original New York acting studios providing training and practice in the performing arts.
Aha.
Now, some of the better-known people who have studied or trained at HB Studio
Here we
include De Niro, Pacino, Sigourney Weaver, Jeff Bridges, and Candice Bergen.
That's pretty star-studded.
So after doing that, he got his first role, which was uncredited, in a movie in 1971 called Jump. I think
Based on the Van Halen hit.
No, I don't think that was later, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, only 14 years before it came out.
Yeah. I don't think that was a particularly well-known movie. That was his first role in 1971, so he didn't start acting professionally until he was 36 years old.
Right.
So he got off to a late start. TV roles started in 74, and he's been basically working ever since, mostly on TV, but he's well known from a handful of films, which we'll talk about. Okay, so 1977 is his first sitcom appearance in 2 episodes of Rhoda.
Oh, yes, I know that one.
Know that one? And he was nominated for that. He was nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award as Outstanding Guest Actor in a Comedy Series.
No way.
So, yeah.
So he blasted onto the scene.
Knocked it out of the park
Oh,
in his first attempt.
fantastic.
Then he had his first lead role in 76 to 77 in 22 episodes of Del Vecchio. And that must have been more of a drama show. It was about an Italian-American detective who worked for the LAPD and also studied to become a lawyer. He was cast as the lead in Taxi, which we're going to talk about more later, in 1978.
Work, and I'm sorry if I had you worried, but I had the most fantastic adventure.
What?
I had to take this fare to Atlantic City. He tips me $200. $200! And I know I swore off gambling, but there I was in Atlantic City with a 200. I would have found $200, if you know what I'm talking about.
Alex, you know you have this gambling problem, so why don't you just take the money home?
Well, if I did, I wouldn't have been able to parlay that $200 into $2,000. $2,000 every time I had the dice. I made pass after pass. I couldn't lose. Yeah, crowd started to gather. They all started applauding me. I mean, I had the feeling that I was absolutely invincible. You want to know the greatest thing about the experience?
What?
I left. That's right. For the first time in my life, I walked away a winner.
You mean you walked away from that while you were still hot? What are you made of stone?
No. I got willpower. Now, the itch might still be there, but I'm telling you, the feeling of walking away from a table hot is a lot better reward than sticking around and winning another 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 20,000.
Now on to movies. In 1980, he was in the movie Ordinary People. Have you heard of this one? It must have been fairly well received.
Okay, no.
So for this, he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor and nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor in Motion Theatre. 1988 to 1992. I'm just hitting on the big things here.
Yeah.
He was in the sitcom Dear John.
I've heard of that one.
You've heard of that one? And he actually won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor in a television series, musical or comedy, for Dear John. And he was nominated for the same thing, but missed out 1 year. So he got it 1 year, missed out another year for Dear John. Now, this is possibly where most people would recognise him from. He he was in Independence Day in 96, playing Julius Levinson, who was, do you remember? The dad of...
Somebody.
What's his name's character?
Well, okay, so you've got the scientist.
The nerdy
is
scientist.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, Jeff Goldblum's
whose
dad.
name in the movie we can't remember,
Yes.
but he's Jeff Goldblum's dad, is he?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Well done, Jeff.
I'm with you.
1997 to 1998, he was in George and Leo. This is another sitcom.
Never heard of it.
He played Leo Wagonman.
Hi.
Hi. George, is it?
Yes. Yes, George Studi.
Hi, George Studi. I'm Leo Wagonman. George, I told my daughter that the gift book cost $100. I assume you'll back me up on that.
Okie dokie. What do you do, Leo?
I'm a professional magician.
Magician?
Yes, George, magician. Someone who performs acts of mystery and illusion without the apparent use of gimmickry.
No, I know what a magician is. It's just I didn't realize that my son was marrying into carnival people.
Is that a shot at me, George? You know, because I can fire right back. Your son got my daughter pregnant out of wedlock. Now, what kind of a father are you?
At least I was there when it happened.
This only ran for one season and 22 episodes, but it's notable and hence in the list because he co-starred with Bob Newhart
Oh, yeah.
in that one. You know Bob?
You like Bob. Yes, Bob Newhart of Newhart. Yeah.
Yes, of Newhart, yes.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I thought you might know Bob Newhart because he was in The Librarians, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He was in, presumably, the movies, and he would have been Jetson.
Jetson.
Or a character with a name that's like Jetson. So he was in the first season of Librarians, and then it got handed over to John Larroquette because Jetson had to die, sadly. But yeah.
John Larroquette, we might talk about him sometime as well.
Maybe so, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've started watching Night Court?
Yep.
He's in that. Anyway, we digress. Back to Judd. So in 2001, he was in A Beautiful Mind, which, this is a well-known
Russell
movie,
Crowe.
starring Russ. He was the head of the Princeton Mathematics Department,
Ooh.
and that whole cast was nominated for a Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in Motion Picture.
Oh.
A drama show that ran for 114 episodes between 2005 and 2010 called
Blimey.
Numbers.
Right.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, was it about a genius who used to solve things with his
Well, that
genius?
was a huge leap of guesswork.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Okay. It's ringing a bell, but, you know, I clearly haven't watched any of it.
Well, the E in this is with a 3.
Okay. Very clever.
Yes. And then 2016, he appeared as Leonard's dad, Dr. Alfred Hofstadter, in 2 episodes of The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, if he's
See,
anything like
dads,
Leonard's
he's-
mum, Leonard's mum is horrible, treats him terribly. So I've not seen the episodes with Judd in being Leonard's dad, but hopefully he's a bit nicer.
Yep.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So he's got a speciality run in playing dads. you
Yeah,
think.
he's got a dad thing going there.
Right.
And then in 2017 to 2018, so bringing us right up to pretty much present day, he was in 2 seasons of a sitcom called Superior Donuts. Have you ever heard of that
No,
one?
it sounds intriguing, though. Sounds like something I'd want to watch.
So he played I think it was the shop owner. Arthur.
Or was it in New York?
I don't know. It was New York or Chicago or somewhere like that. Some
Okay.
inner city place, which the donut shop's been there for a long, long time, and over time it's become a gentrified, trendy area and that sort of stuff. So there's all sorts of urban living issues.
I see.
Then for theatre, because you did mention theatre, he won the Tony Award for Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role in a Play twice.
Right.
Yes, but he hasn't done that. He hasn't done that many, but it obviously went well.
Yeah. Were they many years apart? Or did you not note down what
I
years?
don't know, Jeff.
Fair enough. No, I just find it's more impressive if someone, say, won a Tony in, 1979 and then won one in 2001. Because they can dominate on stage and then zip off for a couple of decades and come back and they're still doing really well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Unfortunately, I don't have that information.
Right. Jolly good. So now that we've covered that, where do we go from here?
Well, do you want to talk about Taxi?
Yeah.
Taxi. So Taxi is a sitcom, was a sitcom focusing on the everyday lives of a handful of New York City taxi drivers and their abusive dispatcher.
Right. Is that Danny DeVito?
That is Danny DeVito.
Oh,
well done,
right,
Jeff.
Cool. Because he does play
well
a
done.
bloody good mean person.
Yep.
Danny DeVito.
Oh, he's a very convincing grump.
Nah.
So Judd's character in Taxi is Alex Riga. Riga? Alex is the main protagonist in the sitcom. He's the compassionate, level-headed core of the show, the one everyone turns to for advice. He's a recovered compulsive gambler and a deadpan cynic. He has resigned himself to driving a cab for the rest of his life. The other characters all have aspirations to go on to some other kind of career, so taxi driving is just a means to an end for them.
Right. And so
Yes.
you've got Andy,
Andy
Tony
Kaufman.
Danza.
Tony Danza it's a fairly large cast.
Oh,
and
okay.
For the sake of brevity, I didn't
Note them all
cover
down.
all of them, but you've hit the main points.
Beauty.
Danny DeVito, Tony Danza as the aspiring boxer, Tony Banter. And of course, Tony went on to star in 8 seasons of Who's the Boss?
Mm-hmm.
Not sure that would have been one of your tip-top favourites.
Well, look, when I was a very young man, I watched Who's the Boss, and I thought it was funny, but it's been a couple of decades since then, so I'm sure it's the sort of thing I'd go back to now and just be shaking my head in wonderment.
You might be cringing.
Yeah. Because I think we're Alyssa Milano's age,
Yep.
so perhaps, having someone your own age on a show helps you tune in, but then if we looked back now, we'd think, oh, I'm not interested. I don't identify with the kid anymore. I identify with Tones. Or even, perhaps in my case, getting older, I'd be thinking Tones is about 30 there.
Yep.
Maybe I'll sympathise
Was
with
there a-
Grandma a bit
I was
more.
going to say, was there a granddad in the show?
There was Grandma.
was
But she
Grandma.
was the cool character.
Ah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
who was she the boss then?
No. Angela was the lady who employed Tones.
Right.
Yeah. And she had a son from memory, and Tones had Alyssa Milano as his daughter, and there was the groovy grandma. Anyway, that's all I
You seem to remember an awful
Yeah,
lot about
well,
it. You sure
quite.
you're not watching this on the sly?
Yeah, I don't
Is
know.
there a box set lying around here somewhere?
Not to
You've
my
hidden?
knowledge. I don't recall.
Well, we did mention that Andy Kaufman was in this as the mechanic Latka. And, of course, Andy Kaufman is a whole story in himself. He passed away on the 16th of May 1984. And shortly after that, in July, Judd wrote an article about him in Rolling Stone, titled, "He drew us into his world of illusion, then made us ask, what if?"
Oh,
So people might like to
right.
look that up if they're interested in the relationship between the two of them and stuff they got up to on the set of Taxi and whatnot.
Huh.
Oh, did we mention that Taxi was on the ABC network and then moved to NBC
No.
and ran for 5 series, 78 to 1982, and then from 1982 to 1983 on NBC.
Okay.
Yes. And then the last thing I wanted to tell you about that was that James L. Brooks, who was the producer of
I
Taxi,
know the name.
or creator of Taxi. Yeah, he's obviously well known because of The Simpsons and other things as well. But he discovered Judd while he was acting in a play on Broadway called Chapter 2, and he wrote the lead role with him in mind. And there are a few difficulties getting him on board because he was, I guess his star had risen to so much at that point that he could command probably more dollars than the network was ready to part with at the initial stages of negotiation or whatever. So, but they eventually got him on board.
So from here, then we chat about what's the name of this bloody show we're going to be watching?
Dear John.
Dear John, thank you. All right, well then what we'll do now that we've heard all about Taxi is go and watch a completely different sitcom called Dear John.
Yeah.
Dear John, dear John, by the time you read these lines, I'll be gone.
See, I teach at this private school in Manhattan, and this old college friend of mine, Mike Roberts, was transferred there. And, well, I figured he was a stranger in town, so I invited him home for dinner, and he started having an affair with my wife.
And you didn't know anything about it?
I thought we were very happy, till her lawyer had me thrown out of my own house. Mike moved right in. They're living there right now, together.
Any, sexual problems?
I don't know. I never asked him. Oh, you mean between me and my wife? Oh, no. No.
Life goes on, right or wrong. Now it's all been said and done, dear John.
All right, we're back from watching Dear John, so let's tell you a bit about this. It's actually the pilot episode. And in this, Judd plays John Lacey, a teacher at a prep school in Manhattan. And after 10 years of marriage, one day he returns home and finds a Dear John letter.
Yeah.
Which is, what is a Dear John letter, Jeff?
It's a breakup letter.
Yeah. It's over.
Yeah.
So his wife, Wendy, is leaving him for his best friend.
Yeah, which isn't
to rub salt
very
into the
nice.
wound. And then he gets basically booted out of his house and moves into an apartment in Queens. So this picks up 6 months after the divorce, when John joins the 1-to-1 Club, which is a support group for people who are divorced and single. It's led by Louise, played by Jane Carr, an English woman whose conversation frequently returns to the topic of sex. Yes. That's her catchphrase. Were there any sexual problems? The regular attendees are Kate, played by Isabella Hoffman, a beautiful divorcee?
Yeah.
Divorcee?
Yeah. Either or.
Okay. Kirk, played by Jerry Burns, a cocky ladies' man. Ralph Drang, played by Harry Gruner, a shy and unconfident man who works as a toll booth collector. Bonnie Filbert, played by Billy Bird, a talkative retiree. Tom, and a young southerner named Mary Beth Sutton, but we don't see the last two in this episode. This was on the NBC network, so Judd did quite a bit of work for NBC. Now, depending on which one you pay attention to, IMDb or Wikipedia, it's either 85 or 90 episodes. I don't know which one's right.
That's quite a few.
Yes, actually lasted longer than the UK sitcom it was based on.
That's often the way, though.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, I imagine it's often the way. Again, no examples, but I've certainly heard of it happening.
Well, this was written by, The Office.
Yeah, and
obvious example.
Oh, yeah, The Office. Yeah. I'd say Three's Company, based on Man About the House. Three's Company probably went on forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
This was written by John Sullivan. He wrote it in the UK and then they took it over to the US. He's best known for Only Fools and Horses.
Oh, so very good pedigree. Okay.
So let's talk about this episode, Jeff. Let's talk about the terrible theme song. I think it's one of the worst I've heard.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not, it doesn't suck you in and make you think of action and adventure and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, the listeners will have heard it already, so they'll be nodding their heads in agreement after hearing
I think so.
But I think the opening does a good job of summarising the events that have surrounded John's divorce and brings you up to date on where he's at. So, from that point of view, it does a good job. So we start with John's sister and brother-in-law helping him move into his new apartment, but they're trying to put a positive spin on the move.
Yeah.
Well, at least his sister is.
Yeah.
His brother-in-law's not.
He's unintentionally, he's trying to sympathise and all that, but he keeps putting the boot in.
Yeah, he's not picking up on the signals, is he?
No.
Poor John. Anyway, his sister brings out an ad for the one-to-one group, which is meeting at the local community centre tonight, which is a group for singles and divorced peoples, and she suggests he gets along to it for some support and encouragement and
Meet new people.
meet new people. Yeah, because he's all on his own now. So that night he turns up to the centre, and this is at 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the episode, and then pretty much the entire rest of the episode is just at the community centre. So
Yeah.
for the pilot, I think we've really galloped along to this point.
Yep.
Anyway, we're getting to the good stuff. People are going everywhere. Now this looks like a college or something like that. Yeah. People are going everywhere into different rooms, and John seems a little bit reticent, but he does go in and introduces himself to the lady in charge of the group. His name is not on the list, but it's not a problem. She obviously
Makes
invites him
allowances
to
for that. Yeah.
introduces herself, invites him to take a seat, and then while they're waiting for everyone else to arrive, because she's expecting a few more people, she invites the newcomers Frank and John to introduce themselves. Frank gets up first, much to John's relief. He says, "Hello, I'm Frank, and I'm an alcoholic." At which point John realises that he's gone to the wrong room. So he tries interjecting and telling them that he's in the wrong room, and they think he's trying to back out of taking part in this AA meeting.
Yeah.
But they eventually get it sorted, and he heads back into the hall. Now, much more cautious than he was before, he starts peering through the blinds of the room opposite, across the other side of the hall. While he's doing this, he doesn't spot this lady who's coming up behind him, and she asks if she can help. And did he call this afternoon? Is his name John? He says, No, I didn't call, and he's backpedaling, and then
I'm just browsing, he said.
yeah, Frank comes in, opens the door from the AA meeting to hand John his newspaper.
And he goes, "Hey, John."
Yeah, here's your newspaper. He's like, "Oh,
Rumbled.
crumbs." So the jig is up. He moves into the room and he goes to grab a coffee from a table that they've got in there, and a guy called Kirk sidles up to him.
Yep.
Now Kirk looks like something out of Saturday Night Fever.
He totally does. And he talks like something out of, I don't know.
Well, I think he talks a bit like Andrew Dice Clay, without the
Possibly so, yeah.
without the expletives.
Very well put.
Yes. So he fancies himself to be a bit of a ladies' man, and I think he's looking for a wingman. Is that
Yeah, with a car, preferably.
with a car? Yeah, he's looking for a wingman to help him slay babes in the one-to-one club. But yeah, when John announces that he doesn't have a car, he makes tracks. And it's really funny, right? Because the camera's obviously right on John and Kirk, and then John says he doesn't have a car. Kirk moves out of shot.
Yep.
And you can hear him moving to talk to a guy who must be just out of shot.
And gives
he
him
goes through completely the same
the
routine.
same script, so to speak.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyway, John's got his coffee. He sits down, and Louise opens the group up. Did I mention that Louise is the
lady
leader
who
facilitates
sprung
the
John in the hall,
conversation?
and yes, she's the facilitator. British lady.
Yes. So she moves to do the introductions, and Brian goes first. He's also new to the group, and he says that he's an alcoholic.
Hi, I'm Brian, and I'm an alcoholic.
Then John explains, well, actually, the AA group is across the...
Yeah.
Well, it's actually like an amusing parallel to what has happened to him across the hall.
But then, honestly, not expecting it.
No, what, did you not
And
expect
then-
it either time?
No, I didn't expect it. No, I didn't expect it either time. And then, doing it again, now it seems incredibly obvious. But they're just getting such good mileage out of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then, even better, which I'm sure you're about to tell us,
Yes, go on.
is that John interjects and says, "Oh, look, no, the AA meeting is across the hall," and off Brian pops. And then 3 other people get up and they all leave as well. And so
Yeah, the timing
they've got
is really
a third
good.
laugh out of it. Yeah.
Louise is just about to start again, and then suddenly 3 other people get up and walk out without saying anything.
Yeah.
And so she decides that she better go and check the AA meeting to make sure that there's no one else in there that should be with them. So she tells them to mingle. Mingle, mingle, mingle.
Yeah.
While she goes out. And there's a few moments of fairly
Sitting in
awkward silence until Ralph blurts out that he's got a friend who went into hospital today to have an eye removed. Bit of a...
It's a good conversation starter.
Well,
Yeah.
grabs your attention, that's
Well,
for sure.
It does.
Kirk says that he gave his girlfriend a kidney,
Right.
trying to
Which
one
is-
up.
Yeah, he's not strictly one-upping anybody, but
no.
he's just seeing any sort of chance to crowbar a good thing about himself into the
Yep.
conversation.
Yeah, that's right. He's trying to interject himself into the conversation. Louise returns and outlines what the purpose of the group is and introduces herself first as an example to the others. So she says she was divorced 2.5 years ago when her husband got some strange carnal desires involving a Polaroid, spike heel boots and a bullwhip. And by day, she's a beauty consultant. Kirk says, so I'm confused. What broke up your marriage?
Yes.
John goes next, tells his sad story, which we know about at this point. And Louise says, did you have any sexual problems? As we've already said, this is her catchphrase. Kate is asked to introduce herself next, and she's already reluctant. I don't know if you noticed, but at the start when John's off getting his cup of tea or coffee or whatever, she's facing the wall, reading the notices on the wall, and then it's only just as the group opens that she
Turns around.
and sits down. So she's obviously trying to avoid
Well,
as much
if not
interaction
Kirk,
as possible.
then certainly all conversation, full stop.
Definitely trying to avoid Kirk. So she's obviously put off, and then we get on to the subject of Ralph, and his marriage lasted for, was it 4 or 5 hours? Bit awkward. Turns out that he was married to a Bulgarian lady who didn't speak English, and she left during their wedding reception.
Well, he hits the nail on the head, Kirk does, which
So what was his theory?
his theory is that she only married Ralph to get into the country and get citizenship.
To
And
get
that's
his green
exactly
card.
what's
To
happened.
get a green card or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that. And what's his advice for Ralph?
I have no idea what the advice was.
Don't get too down about some ugly commie chick.
Ah, holy moly.
As he's kind of snacking on.
Yeah. Whatever.
He's moved behind Ralph. and
to the
he's just,
refreshments table.
Yeah. Humming down some food, talking with his mouth full while he's dishing out these pearls of wisdom. When Louise gets around to asking Ralph about if there were any sexual problems, he says there was no chance to consummate things. Of course, because they were only married for 4 or 5 hours. Kirk says, well, you should have found a closet.
Were there any sexual?
There wasn't any time to find out. You mean the marriage was never consummated? No, how could it be? We were at a wedding reception in a hall just off the chapel.
Ralphie, couldn't you find somewhere private? You know, like a closet?
A closet?
Yeah. Chances are all his wife wanted was a good man.
She had a good man.
Oh.
You.
Oh. Good man would have found the closet.
So they put it off as long as they can, and they ask Kirk to tell them what his story is.
Yeah, because you're opening up a can of worms, and Kirk will talk about himself. And
He could talk for the next 2 hours.
Wow.
Just about his own things. Now, John comes out with the line that Kirk's wife was probably claustrophobic.
Yeah. After spending all that time in the closet.
And John takes the lead and basically shuts Kirk down.
Yeah.
And he goes over to reopen the Ralph situation and to delve a bit deeper into that. But Louise is trying to shut things down for some reason when Kirk makes another off-colour comment to the disappointment of most of
Calling into doubt. Is it Julie?
Louise.
Yeah, so he calls into question her honourability.
Yep.
And then she doesn't react very well to that and wants to pack it in for the night.
Yep.
Until someone reveals the tantalising prospect of a sexual problem. One of the quiet cast members in the background stands up.
Yeah, now...
I know I skipped over the bit where...
So Louise, when she tries to shut the group down, she says, we always finish at 9. And then
Which is a blatant
basically
lie.
we cut the scene and then we move out back into the hall. Mm-hmm. And you see on the clock that it's now
11:15.
11:15 or something like that. So they've been talking for another 2 hours.
Yes. So they must have got to the bottom of Ralph's problem and made him feel better.
Or maybe they talked about the other ladies thing for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, fair enough.
So-
The chariot racing.
Yeah, chariot racing. So Kate and John are out there initially, and they're discussing whether they're going to come back. And then the others come out. Ralph will be coming back, although he didn't like it. Kirk isn't sure because he might be in the Caribbean next week, but if he's not, he'll be there.
He'll grace them with his presence.
Yeah. He's
The lucky...
going to get a lift home with Ralph. And Kirk asks him if he likes Thai food, which is something he was rabbiting on about earlier.
to John.
So it's pretty clear that Kirk is, despite his bravado and everything else, just some lonely dude.
Yep.
So then Kate leaves and John shuffles down the hall, and that's the end of the episode. Have you got any thoughts about this episode of Dear John and Judd?
Well, I haven't watched Taxi, but you mentioned that he's we'll just say the sensible one, for lack of a better term. And in this sitcom, he's a very sort of low-key, passive dude. I mean, he got a bit worked up when he was talking about the breakup of his marriage, finally, after he let a few basic facts out. But he's taken it all very matter-of-factly and without anger and all that up to that point. And so he seems like he's not a volatile dude.
No.
He's a very level-headed sort of dude and has to deal with the practicalities of how, the situation he finds himself in. And so maybe he's just good at playing those characters. Is the Taxi character quite similar?
Well, I think, the Taxi character is a bit older than the others that are around him.
Ah, okay.
And he is like the sensible one and the glue that kind of holds them together. He's the one they go to for advice and stuff like that. And I think it's kind of a similar character, but not completely the same. Yes. I like the way that he goes into this meeting, obviously feeling awkward and defensive, and you see that in his body language when he's sitting down in the chair. He leaves his trench coat on. We didn't mention that he's wearing a tie and suit
so
and
he's
everything.
already got
like
a suit jacket on and everything, yeah.
Yeah, but he's got the trench coat wrapped around him and crossed his legs, and you can tell he's just dreading being asked questions and stuff like that.
Oh.
Yes, so I think he does a good job of getting that.
Is it obvious that he hasn't really shared it much? You know what I mean?
I
He
think
probably
it is because
I think
he's so reluctant to share it. It's apparent that he hasn't told the story many times. These are strangers, but maybe that would make it more awkward, but still.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, they're all in a similar situation, so...
So he conveys all that really well.
Yes, I think he does. I think he delivers the gags really well. There's the sarcastic one where Kate asks Ralph why the friend had his eye removed. John says he did it for...
Was there something wrong with his eye?
Yeah. Was there something wrong with his eye? No, he did it for cosmetic reasons. When Kirk doesn't get why Louise broke up with her husband, Judd Hirsch does this great miming thing where he acts out the Polaroid, the spike heel boots, and the bullwhip.
Yeah.
And there's another gag where Kate asks him if he's still in touch with his wife, and he says, only by check.
That's a brilliant line.
Yeah, but they're all delivered really well.
Yep.
Yes, he's got a very naturalistic way of delivering his lines. I like in the scene where his sister and brother-in-law are helping him move in, and they're having this conversation, and his sister keeps talking over the top of him. It's all very good.
He did look a defeated man.
Yep.
But I think, Judd Hirsch is he sells it. And like you say about being naturalistic, I think there was, it seems funny coming from John Wayne. But anyway, John Wayne quoted about all you have to do as an actor is, sell sincerity. And he goes, all I do is sell sincerity. And I haven't watched a lot of John Wayne, and maybe he was a great actor. But this is what Judd Hirsch is doing here.
Yep.
You absolutely believe that this is who the character is.
Yep. Do you think some actors are naturally likeable?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it obviously depends on the character that they're playing, but...
even if they're playing a crappy character, like Gene Wilder is a classic example of that. So even though Willy Wonka's a bit of a strange and dodgy dude and lets kiddies be killed and all these sorts of things...
He's got the twinkle in his eye.
He's got the twinkle in his eye. Gene Wilder's immensely likeable.
Yes, I think Judd might fall into that category.
Yeah. Is Matt LeBlanc instantly likeable?
Yeah, I would say so. Even if you might want to kick him sometimes.
Oh, well, fair enough. Sorry, where were you going with that before?
No, that was just another thought about Judd Hirsch. That's pretty much the end of what I've got, Jeff.
Well, but then, okay, so I don't think you've encapsulated why, out of all the millions of actors that we could have chosen for this very limited edition type of episode of Sitcom Showdown, why did Judd Hirsch leap out at you as being the man to be nominated.
I like the way he delivers his lines. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and that's
I wanna-
across all the sitcoms.
Yeah, like all the things I've watched him in, I just like watching him.
Yeah.
I can't put it down to anything more than that.
No, that's right. And you probably wouldn't want to, because the more you try and think about some of these things, it might lose a bit of the magic. So, right, Judd Hirsch, eh? No, very good. And I think it's a good choice of actor because it's very easy for us to choose someone like Rowan Atkinson, right, who's been in a ton of different sitcoms and is an automatic someone you'd hold up as being a great actor and a great sitcom actor. But having someone who a lot of people might not have seen their work, I think that's very good. I'm more interested now in chasing down some Judd Hirsch sitcoms and seeing some more of his work.
Yeah, I'd say Taxi would be the obvious choice. That's Dear John, the one we were just talking about, is probably a bit more of a UK type, or it's a US produced sitcom, but if UK sitcoms are your thing, maybe check that one out.
Yeah, so
But of course, Taxi, you get to see him alongside interacting with Danny DeVito and all these sorts of people. So, well, I guess we're putting Judd Hirsch into the Hall of Fame, Jeff.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's do that, and then I'm looking forward to seeing who you're going to pick in a fortnight.
I've got my mind on 2 different people.
Well, you've narrowed it down because it was 3.
It was 3.
Last time we
So
spoke.
narrowed it down to 2. But of course, it depended on who you picked this week because,
Well, I don't
you
think.
don't want to pick the same person.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you would have had Judd Hirsch on your list, on your
Nope.
short list.
Okay, so for August, of course, there's 1 episode remaining. I'll pick an actor and we'll go through the same thing in the next episode. Episode 57 coming up.
Yeah. And then we'll be back to normal
Yeah, absolutely.
in September.
Yes, and then, of course, October, as we've said many times, it's going to be Halloween episodes.
Yes.
So if you want to nominate perhaps a show with Halloween episode for us to consider, dear listener, please do.
Yeah. We'll need some suggestions. I'm starting to look forward to the Halloween thing now.
Should we do Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Cheers again?
They
There's
were
no
pretty
reason
fun.
not to.
Yeah. It was fun.
Oh, well, we'll see what happens. Okay, well, we'll be back in a couple of weeks, hopefully, and see you all then.
Yep. Bye.
Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter @Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.